Hello, everyone, and welcome. Have you ever extended a hand in genuine goodwill, offered your support, or poured your heart into helping someone, only to be met with indifference, or worse, outright disrespect? Perhaps you've held the door open for a stranger, offering a simple courtesy, and they've strolled past without so much as a nod of acknowledgement. Maybe you've gone out of your way to assist a coworker, burning the midnight oil to help them meet a deadline, and instead of gratitude, you've received a snide remark, a dismissive shrug, or the unsettling feeling that your efforts were expected all along. Moments like these, those subtle yet stinging instances of unappreciated kindness, can make you pause, question your own motives, and wonder, did I do something wrong? Is my kindness being misinterpreted as weakness or naivete? Is my generosity even worth the emotional investment, the expenditure of time and energy, the risk of disappointment? Before you allow these doubts to fester, before you start questioning your own inherent goodness, your innate desire to help others, let's take a step back, examine the bigger picture, and reframe the way we approach the act of giving. The problem isn't your kindness itself, that core impulse to be helpful and compassionate, it's how, when, and to whom that kindness is given, the boundaries you set, or fail to set, around your generosity, and the expectations you attach to your acts of service. Stoic philosophy, a timeless guide to living a virtuous and fulfilling life, teaches us that kindness, far from being a weakness or a vulnerability to be exploited, is one of the greatest expressions of inner strength, a reflection of our commitment to reason, empathy, and the well-being of others. However, kindness without wisdom, without discernment, without clear and consistent boundaries, is like a ship without a rudder, adrift at sea and vulnerable to being tossed about by the whims of circumstance and the self-serving agendas of others. It's a recipe for being taken advantage of, for feeling resentful, and for ultimately diminishing the value of your own generosity. This video isn't about discouraging kindness, about becoming cynical or hardening your heart against the needs of others. Instead, it's about transforming your generosity into a powerful force for good, a beacon of light that reflects your self-worth, embodies your values, and inspires respect rather than inviting exploitation. Together, we'll unpack the timeless lessons of Stoic philosophy, explore the nuances of ethical giving, and delve into practical strategies for practicing kindness in a way that earns respect, protects your well-being, and allows you to give freely and joyfully, without the fear of being used or unappreciated. So stay with me, every second of this message has the potential to reshape how you approach kindness, ensuring it becomes a source of strength, a testament to your integrity, and a force that no one can ignore. We'll explore real-life examples, dissect the common pitfalls of boundless generosity, and equip you with the tools to cultivate a more balanced, sustainable, and ultimately more rewarding approach to kindness. I'm so excited to delve into this topic with you today. It's something I've struggled with myself, and I know many of you have too. The feeling of being taken advantage of after offering kindness is something that can really sting. But I truly believe that by understanding these Stoic principles, we can change that narrative. So, let's get started. Let's begin our journey by first identifying why our kindness sometimes works against us. Number 1. Why your kindness works against you. Imagine a man named John, a kind and generous neighbor who's always ready to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. When his friend forgets their keys, John skips dinner, sacrifices his own plans, and drives across town to deliver the spare, ensuring his friend isn't stranded. When a neighbor's gate breaks during a storm, John puts aside his personal projects, postpones his own deadlines, and spends hours in the sweltering heat repairing the damage, restoring the neighbor's sense of security and privacy. At first, his help is met with heartfelt gratitude, genuine appreciation, and sincere expressions of thanks. Neighbors offer him baked goods, friends buy him dinner, and the community showers him with praise for his selflessness and generosity. But over time, John's acts of kindness, his consistent willingness to go above and beyond for others, become expected, taken for granted, and even demanded as a matter of course. One day, John finds himself genuinely overbooked, stretched thin by his own commitments, and forced to refuse a request for help. Instead of understanding, empathy, or even a simple acknowledgement of his own limitations, he's met with criticism, disappointment, and even resentment. "You always help," his neighbor complains, "why not now? I really needed you." John begins to feel taken advantage of, drained of energy, and deeply resentful. He finds himself wondering, is my kindness even appreciated? Am I being used as a doormat? Is it even worth being so generous if this is how I'm going to be treated? We've all been in John's shoes, whether it's at work, in our families, or within our communities. Kindness, when given without boundaries, without clear expectations, and without a healthy dose of self-awareness, can easily be misunderstood, undervalued, or even taken for granted. It can lead to a cycle of resentment, exhaustion, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Stoic philosophy explains that the issue isn't kindness itself, that core impulse to be compassionate and helpful, but how we practice it, the motivations that drive our actions, and the expectations we attach to our generosity. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The soul is dyed the color of its thoughts." If your kindness stems from a need to please others, a fear of rejection, or a desire for external validation, your soul becomes colored by dependency, vulnerability, and a sense of obligation. Your generosity is no longer a free and joyful expression of your values, but a means of seeking approval, avoiding conflict, or fulfilling an unspoken expectation. This kind of kindness is fragile, easily broken by a lack of reciprocation, and ultimately unsustainable. But when guided by values, self-awareness, and a genuine desire to help others, kindness transforms into a source of inner strength, a testament to your character, and a powerful force for positive change. Consider another example. Sophia, an outstanding employee at a large firm, consistently goes above and beyond her job description, often working late, taking on extra responsibilities, and volunteering for challenging projects, all without complaint. Initially, her efforts are met with admiration from colleagues and effusive praise from her boss, who lauds her dedication and work ethic. But as time goes on, her dedication is taken for granted, her hard work is expected, and her willingness to sacrifice her personal time becomes the norm. One day, Sophia declines working late due to health reasons, explaining that she's feeling burned out and needs to prioritize her well-being. The result? Her boss seems disappointed, her colleagues find it inconvenient that she's not as available as before, and she's subtly made to feel guilty for prioritizing her own needs. That's when Sophia realizes that kindness without boundaries doesn't inspire respect, it breeds endless expectations, creates a sense of entitlement in others, and ultimately leads to resentment and exhaustion for the giver. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that kindness isn't about unconditional sacrifice, about emptying your own cup in order to fill the cups of others. It requires balance, wisdom, and a clear understanding of your own limitations. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish the value of kindness, it protects it from being exploited, preserves it as a genuine and voluntary act, and ensures that it remains a source of joy and fulfillment rather than a burden of obligation. Kindness that isn't rooted in confidence and self-awareness risks becoming a cycle of resentment for the giver and entitlement from the receiver, a dynamic that ultimately harms both parties. The giver feels used, undervalued, and drained of energy, while the receiver becomes accustomed to receiving without giving back, developing a sense of entitlement that can damage their relationships and hinder their personal growth. The lesson here is simple yet profound: give with an open heart, but don't forget to set limits, to prioritize your own well-being, and to ensure that your generosity is respected and reciprocated. Your kindness is a precious asset, a valuable resource, not an infinite obligation to be exploited by others. When you practice purposeful kindness, when you give with intention, awareness, and clear boundaries, you not only safeguard your dignity, protect your well-being, and prevent yourself from being taken advantage of, but you also elevate the value of your actions, transforming them into a powerful force for good that inspires respect, fosters genuine connection, and contributes to a more just and equitable world. Kindness shouldn't be used to seek approval, avoid conflict, or fulfill an expectation. It should be used to reflect your inner strength, embody your values, and express your genuine care for others, something no one can diminish, exploit, or take for granted. Number 2. the fine line between kindness and pleasing everyone. Imagine a man named Mark, a dedicated father who always puts his family first, prioritizing their needs above his own desires and sacrificing his own well-being for their happiness. Whenever someone in the household needs help, whether it's a leaky faucet, a flat tire, or a school project due the next morning, Mark is there, ready to spring into action and solve the problem. He works long hours to provide for his family, spending evenings fixing things around the house, running errands, and helping his children with their homework. And he uses his weekends to chauffeur his kids to activities, attend their sporting events, and organize family outings, all while neglecting his own hobbies, interests, and personal needs. At first, his family appreciates his dedication, showering him with praise, affection, and expressions of gratitude. But over time, Mark's constant willingness to serve, his unconditional devotion to his family's needs, become an unspoken expectation, an assumed obligation that is no longer met with the same level of appreciation. When he finally declines a request, explaining that he's too exhausted, overwhelmed, or simply needs some time to himself, he faces complaints, criticism, and even accusations of being selfish. "You always help," his children protest, "why not now? We really need you." This was when Mark realized that his unconditional devotion wasn't inspiring respect, fostering appreciation, or promoting a healthy family dynamic, but instead, fostering unchecked entitlement, creating a sense of dependency, and ultimately leading to resentment on both sides. This story resonates with many of us, particularly those who are natural caregivers, dedicated parents, or individuals who tend to prioritize the needs of others above their own. Kindness, when offered without boundaries, without self-awareness, and without a clear understanding of one's own limitations, is often taken for granted, misunderstood, or even exploited. It can create a dynamic where the giver feels drained, undervalued, and resentful, while the receiver becomes accustomed to receiving without giving back, developing a sense of entitlement that can damage their relationships and hinder their personal growth. Stoic philosophy teaches that kindness isn't about limitless sacrifice, about emptying your own cup in order to fill the cups of others. It's an intentional act, requiring wisdom, balance, and a clear understanding of one's own values, needs, and limitations. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your kindness stems from a fear of disappointing others, a need for external validation, or a desire to avoid conflict, your soul absorbs the hue of dependence, vulnerability, and a sense of obligation. Your generosity is no longer a free and joyful expression of your values, but a means of seeking approval, avoiding rejection, or fulfilling an unspoken expectation. But when your kindness is rooted in values, self-awareness, and a genuine desire to help others, it transforms into true strength, a testament to your character, and a powerful force for positive change. Consider another example. Lisa, a dedicated nurse, goes above and beyond for her patients, providing compassionate care, offering emotional support, and advocating for their needs. She even steps in to help her coworkers, volunteering for extra shifts, taking on additional responsibilities, and assisting with challenging cases. Initially, her efforts are praised, her dedication is lauded, and her colleagues express their gratitude for her willingness to go the extra mile. But over time, her efforts become an expectation, her willingness to help is taken for granted, and her colleagues begin to rely on her to pick up the slack, solve their problems, and handle the most difficult situations. One day, Lisa decides to take a break, to focus on her own health, to recharge her batteries, and to prioritize her personal needs. Only to face criticism for not being as available as before, for not being as willing to help, and for not being as dedicated to her patients and colleagues. This is when Lisa understands that kindness without boundaries doesn't command respect, it creates endless demands, fosters a sense of entitlement, and ultimately leads to burnout and resentment. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that kindness should be fortified with mindfulness and purpose, grounded in a clear understanding of one's own values, needs, and limitations. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish your kindness, it elevates it, protects it from being exploited, and preserves it as a genuine act of goodwill, offered freely and joyfully, without the expectation of reciprocation or the fear of disappointing others. It's not a sign of selfishness, but a way to honor yourself and those around you, to create a more balanced, sustainable, and ultimately more rewarding relationship. By establishing boundaries, you protect your kindness from being exploited, preserve it as a genuine act of goodwill, and create a dynamic where both parties feel valued, respected, and empowered. So, the next time you feel inclined to say yes to a request, take a moment to pause, reflect, and ask yourself, does this align with my values? Am I giving out of genuine sincerity, a heartfelt desire to help, or am I giving out of fear of rejection, a need for approval, or a sense of obligation? These questions help you assess your motivations, clarify your intentions, and shape your kindness wisely, ensuring that it remains a source of strength, joy, and fulfillment. Remember, boundaries aren't walls, barriers that isolate you from others. They are frameworks for building healthy relationships, grounded in respect, balance, and mutual understanding. When you practice intentional kindness, when you give with awareness, purpose, and clear boundaries, you enrich your own life, foster meaningful connections, and transform your generosity into a strength that no one can overlook. Number 3, being firm without losing your true self. Imagine a man named Jack, a father, a friend, and a co-worker known among friends and colleagues for his boundless kindness and unwavering enthusiasm. If someone needs help moving, Jack is the first to show up with his truck, his tools, and a can-do attitude. When a co-worker is overwhelmed with deadlines, Jack willingly takes on extra tasks, sacrifices his own time, and goes above and beyond to help them meet their goals. At first, everyone appreciates his generosity, showering him with praise, gratitude, and expressions of thanks. But over time, however, his willingness becomes an expectation, his generosity is taken for granted, and his selflessness is no longer recognized as a voluntary act of kindness. One day, Jack says no. He's exhausted, burned out, and needs a break to recharge his batteries and focus on his own needs. Instead of understanding, empathy, or even a simple acknowledgement of his own limitations, he faces disappointment, criticism, and even resentment. "You always help," his friends complain, "why can't you help me now? I really needed you." That's when Jack realizes that his kindness, though pure in intention, has been misunderstood, undervalued, and even exploited, leading to exhaustion, resentment, and a diminished sense of self-worth. This scenario isn't unique to Jack, it reflects a common pitfall of boundless generosity, how kindness, when not paired with self-assertion, clear boundaries, and a healthy dose of self-respect, can be misconstrued as weakness, vulnerability, and even an invitation to be taken advantage of. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on reason, self-awareness, and virtue, teaches us that true kindness isn't just about giving, it's about intentional giving, rooted in personal values, grounded in self-respect, and balanced with a clear understanding of one's own needs and limitations. Kindness shouldn't be tied to fear of rejection, a need for approval, or a desire to please everyone. Instead, it should reflect inner strength, emanate from a place of genuine compassion, and align with one's core values. Consider Emily, a mother who always puts her family's needs first, sacrificing personal time, neglecting her hobbies, and foregoing self-care in order to ensure everyone else is cared for and happy. At first, her family appreciates her efforts, expressing their gratitude and showering her with affection. But over time, however, her sacrifices become an unspoken expectation, an assumed obligation that is no longer recognized as a voluntary act of love. One day, Emily decides to dedicate one evening a week to herself, to engage in activities that bring her joy, replenish her energy, and nourish her soul, such as reading, practicing yoga, or simply unwinding in a hot bath. Her family initially resists, accustomed to her constant availability and accustomed to having their every need met without question. But Emily knows that if she doesn't set boundaries, if she continues to sacrifice her own well-being for the sake of others, she risks burnout, resentment, and ultimately diminishing the value of her contributions. Through this decision, she learns that loving herself is just as important as loving others, that prioritizing her own well-being is not selfish but essential for maintaining a healthy family dynamic and sustaining her capacity for kindness. Stoic philosophy reminds us that boundaries aren't barriers, walls that isolate us from others, but tools to protect our mental health, preserve our energy, and sustain healthy relationships. Boundaries make kindness clearer, more meaningful, and more respected, preventing it from being misconstrued as weakness, vulnerability, or an invitation to be exploited. When you set limits, when you assert your needs, and when you prioritize your own well-being, you not only protect yourself from burnout, resentment, and exploitation, but you also teach others to value your contributions, respect your boundaries, and recognize the importance of balance in a healthy relationship. It starts with small actions, seemingly insignificant choices that cumulatively shape the dynamic of your interactions. Politely declining an invitation that doesn't interest you, setting limits on the amount of help you can provide, and assertively communicating your needs and preferences are all essential steps in establishing healthy boundaries and fostering a culture of respect. Now picture a different scenario: you have a friend who frequently borrows money without returning it, a pattern that has persisted for months, causing you financial strain and emotional distress. Initially, you lend because you believe they genuinely need help, wanting to support them through a difficult time. But as the requests grow more frequent, the amounts increase, and the promises of repayment are consistently broken, you feel taken advantage of, resentful, and increasingly hesitant to offer your assistance. Without boundaries, without a clear conversation about expectations, and without a firm commitment to repayment, the cycle continues, perpetuating a dynamic of dependency and resentment. Setting a firm but respectful limit, explaining your financial constraints, and asserting your need for repayment doesn't just safeguard your finances, it challenges your friend to address their behavior, take responsibility for their actions, and break the cycle of dependency. Though it may feel uncomfortable at first, this conversation can create a healthier, more balanced relationship, one grounded in honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. Kindness shouldn't come at the cost of self-abandonment, about sacrificing your own needs, neglecting your own well-being, or compromising your values in order to please others. It must be offered with confidence, clarity, and fidelity to your personal values, reflecting your inner strength, embodying your compassion, and aligning with your commitment to ethical behavior. This doesn't diminish your worth in the eyes of others; on the contrary, it shows that you understand your limits, value your well-being, and live with integrity, inspiring respect and fostering genuine connection. A thoughtfully communicated "no" can earn more respect than a pressured "yes," demonstrating your self-awareness, honoring your boundaries, and conveying your genuine commitment to the relationship. By setting boundaries, learning to say "no" gracefully, and prioritizing your own well-being, you not only protect your mental health, preserve your energy, and safeguard your finances, but you also inspire others to do the same, creating a culture of respect, fostering a sense of balance, and promoting healthy relationships. You demonstrate that kindness isn't submission, a passive acceptance of being taken advantage of, but a strength born from self-respect, grounded in compassion, and radiating with sincerity. When practiced intentionally, kindness enriches your life, strengthens your relationships, and radiates its value to those around you, creating a ripple effect of positive change. However, for kindness to thrive, for it to be a source of strength and joy, you must learn to protect it, to nurture it, and to cultivate a healthy balance between giving and receiving. So, think back: when was the last time you said yes to something you didn't want to do, something that drained your energy, compromised your values, or left you feeling resentful? Next time, will you have the courage to set boundaries, to assert your needs, and to say no without compromising your inherent kindness, without sacrificing your compassion, and without diminishing your commitment to ethical behavior? Often, it's in these seemingly small, everyday moments, these subtle choices between self-sacrifice and self-respect, that we rediscover the balance between kindness and self-respect, a balance that is essential for leading a life of meaning, integrity, and lasting fulfillment. Number 4, striking the right balance between kindness and self-worth. I remember a time, a few years ago, when I helped a close friend fix her car. She was going through a rough financial patch, struggling to make ends meet, and simply couldn't afford to take her car to a mechanic for repairs. I, being somewhat mechanically inclined, offered my assistance, volunteering to diagnose the problem, source the necessary parts, and perform the repairs myself. I spent my entire Saturday, from sunrise to sunset, working on her car, diagnosing the complex issues, ordering the correct parts, and meticulously fixing the various problems. At first, she was incredibly grateful, expressing her sincere appreciation, showering me with compliments, and even bringing me coffee and pastries as a token of thanks. But just a few weeks later, when the car had another issue, a new problem that required further attention, she called me again, not to ask for my help as a favor, but almost expecting me to step in, assume responsibility, and resolve the issue without question. It wasn't that I didn't want to help, that I was unwilling to offer my assistance, but her tone carried an assumption, a sense of entitlement, and a lack of appreciation that made me feel my effort had been taken for granted, my generosity had been undervalued, and my kindness had been exploited. That was the moment I realized that kindness without boundaries doesn't just exhaust you, drain your energy, and leave you feeling resentful. It diminishes its own value, cheapens the act of giving, and ultimately undermines the dynamic of the relationship. Stoic philosophy teaches us that kindness must be paired with wisdom, balanced with self-respect, and grounded in clear boundaries. Without these essential elements, kindness can easily be misunderstood, undervalued, or even exploited, leading to exhaustion, resentment, and a diminished sense of self-worth. I started to understand that setting boundaries doesn't make you less kind, less compassionate, or less generous. In fact, it preserves your kindness, protects your well-being, and ensures that your generosity remains a genuine and voluntary act, offered freely and joyfully, rather than an obligation to be fulfilled or an expectation to be met. Boundaries are not walls that isolate us from others, barriers that prevent us from connecting, or obstacles that hinder our ability to help. They're bridges that nurture healthy relationships, grounded in respect, balance, and mutual understanding. Take the story of Josh, a colleague of mine who was always willing to take on extra tasks from others, sacrificing his own time, neglecting his own responsibilities, and exhausting his own energy because he couldn't bring himself to say no. At first, everyone praised Josh as an amazing coworker, a valuable asset to the team, and an individual who was always ready to lend a helping hand. But as his workload increased, his stress levels soared, and his personal life suffered, he began to feel burned out, resentful, and increasingly overwhelmed. Eventually, he decided to set limits, assert his boundaries, and decline unnecessary requests, focusing instead on his own responsibilities and prioritizing his own well-being. Strangely enough, instead of straining relationships, causing conflict, or diminishing his value in the eyes of others, this newfound clarity, this assertive communication, and this commitment to self-respect earned him more respect, fostered a greater sense of appreciation, and improved the overall dynamic of the team. On another occasion, I witnessed a busy mother sacrificing all her personal time, neglecting her own needs, and foregoing her own desires in order to care for her family, catering to their every whim, anticipating their every need, and devoting every moment to meeting their demands. She gave up her hobbies, abandoned her passions, and sacrificed her pleasures, devoting every moment to meeting the needs of her children and spouse. Initially, her sacrifices were appreciated, her efforts were recognized, and her family expressed their gratitude for her unwavering dedication. But over time, they became an unspoken expectation, an assumed obligation that was no longer acknowledged as a voluntary act of love. When she decided to take one evening a week for herself, to attend yoga classes, connect with friends, or simply relax and recharge, her family initially felt unsettled, confused, and even resistant, accustomed to her constant availability and expecting her to continue sacrificing her own well-being for their benefit. Yet over time, they saw how this change not only brought her renewed energy, improved her mood, and enhanced her overall well-being, but also taught them the value of balance, the importance of self-care, and the need to respect her boundaries. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that kindness isn't just about giving, it's about knowing when to hold back, when to say no, and when to prioritize your own well-being. A kind gesture means more when it's done willingly and sincerely, offered freely and joyfully, rather than out of pressure to please others, fear of rejection, or a sense of obligation to be fulfilled. Ask yourself, do I genuinely want to do this? Does this align with my values? Does this support my well-being? These questions help you recognize when to say yes, when to say no, and when to offer an alternative solution that better aligns with your needs and limitations. Kindness isn't self-sacrifice, a depletion of your own resources in order to fulfill the needs of others. It's a voluntary offering, a conscious choice, and an expression of genuine compassion that is grounded in self-respect, balanced with wisdom, and aligned with your core values. Remember, kindness only holds its true value when you maintain your self-worth and balance, when you prioritize your well-being, and when you set clear boundaries that protect your energy, your time, and your emotional resources. Stoic teachings remind us that practicing kindness with wisdom and self-awareness doesn't just foster meaningful relationships, build stronger communities, and create a more compassionate world. It helps you live a fulfilling and authentic life, a life that is grounded in integrity, guided by reason, and aligned with your core values. So, next time you're asked for help, next time you're presented with an opportunity to offer your kindness, take a moment, pause, and ask yourself, is this how I want to show my kindness? Is this the best way for me to contribute? Does this align with my values and support my well-being? The answer will guide you to make decisions that protect yourself, honor your boundaries, and preserve your energy while also spreading the true essence of kindness, fostering genuine connection, and contributing to a more just and equitable world. Number 5. Turning kindness into a source of inner strength. Kindness is a beautiful gift, a valuable resource, and a powerful force for good that we offer to the world, enriching the lives of others, fostering genuine connection, and contributing to a more compassionate society. But sometimes, despite our best intentions, despite our purest motives, and despite our most sincere efforts, that very gift can leave us feeling empty, hurt, and even resentful. There are moments when our kindness is misunderstood, undervalued, overlooked, or worse, taken for granted, exploited, and even met with ingratitude. But experiences like these, those subtle yet stinging instances of unappreciated generosity, should never deter us from the path of kindness, discourage us from offering our help, or harden our hearts against the needs of others. Instead, Stoic philosophy teaches us that kindness must stem from an inner strength, a resilient spirit, and an unwavering commitment to our values, a flame that cannot be extinguished, no matter how fierce the winds of ingratitude, disrespect, or disregard may blow. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." His words remind us that the value of kindness doesn't lie in how others perceive or react to it, in the external validation we receive, or in the reciprocation we expect, but in how steadfastly we uphold our moral principles, in how consistently we align our actions with our values, and in how authentically we express our compassion for others, regardless of their response. Imagine a coworker you tirelessly supported at work, mentoring them, guiding them, and assisting them with a challenging project, only for them to take full credit for the project's success, presenting it as their own accomplishment, and failing to acknowledge your contributions, your guidance, and your support. The sting of betrayal is undoubtedly painful, the feeling of being overlooked is understandably disheartening, and the temptation to retaliate or withdraw is certainly understandable. But as Stoicism suggests, the worth of your kindness isn't measured by how it's received, by the recognition you receive, or by the gratitude you are shown, but by your unwavering commitment to doing what is right, by your dedication to supporting others, and by your unwavering belief in the value of collaboration. Kindness rooted in inner conviction, grounded in ethical principles, and aligned with your core values doesn't require recognition to thrive. It exists because you choose to do what's right, because you believe in the power of generosity, and because you are committed to making a positive impact on the world, regardless of the response you receive. This principle applies even in the intimacy of family relationships, where expectations are often higher, boundaries are often blurred, and emotions are often more intense. Picture a mother who tirelessly prepares every meal for her family, spending hours in the kitchen, planning nutritious menus, preparing delicious dishes, and catering to everyone's individual preferences. Always the last to leave the table after cleaning up, washing dishes, and ensuring everyone is satisfied, she often neglects her own needs, sacrifices her own time, and forgoes her own pleasures in order to serve her family. At first, her dedication is met with gratitude, her efforts are appreciated, and her family expresses their thanks for her unwavering devotion. But over time, it becomes an unspoken expectation, an assumed obligation that is no longer recognized as a voluntary act of love. If her kindness were tied to the expectation of appreciation, if her generosity were contingent upon receiving recognition, she might feel disheartened, exhausted, and increasingly resentful. But if she acts out of love, if she finds joy in nurturing her family, and if she believes that this is how she best expresses her care, her strength will remain unshaken, her spirit will remain resilient, and her kindness will continue to flow freely, no matter how indifferent others may seem. Stoicism invites us to examine our motivations, to question our intentions, and to clarify the purpose behind our actions. Why am I being kind? What is my desired outcome? Where does my kindness originate? These are not easy questions to answer, they require introspection, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront our own vulnerabilities. But they are essential if kindness stems from a need for approval, a fear of rejection, or a desire for external validation. It becomes fragile, easily broken by a lack of reciprocation, and ultimately unsustainable. But when it arises from inner will, when it is grounded in core values, and when it is fueled by genuine compassion, it becomes unshakable, resilient, and a constant source of inner strength, regardless of others' behavior. Kindness at its purest strikes a delicate balance between compassion and self-respect, generosity and boundaries, empathy and reason. It's the art of blending generosity with firm boundaries, empathy with reason, and compassion with self-respect, creating a dynamic where both parties feel valued, respected, and empowered. In healthy relationships, kindness isn't a one-way street, where one side gives and the other only receives, where one person sacrifices and the other exploits, or where one individual depletes their resources in order to fulfill the needs of another. It's a genuine exchange that nurtures both parties, fostering mutual growth, promoting understanding, and strengthening the bonds of connection. In this balance, kindness transcends its conventional meaning, transforming into a powerful force that builds deeper, more meaningful connections, fosters a culture of respect, and contributes to a more compassionate world. As Stoicism emphasizes, kindness not only alleviates others' suffering, eases their burdens, and improves their lives, but also strengthens us, builds our character, and enriches our souls, turning every generous act into a living expression of dignity and inner strength. Seneca wisely observed, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." When practiced with wisdom, kindness brings not only joy to others but also profound meaningful connections to ourselves. But this can only happen when we maintain our self-worth and sense of value while giving, when we prioritize our own well-being, and when we set clear boundaries that protect our energy, our time, and our emotional resources. You cannot truly be kind to others if you are not kind to yourself, if you are not valuing your own needs, and if you are not respecting your own limitations. This requires self-awareness, a clear understanding of your values, and a willingness to prioritize your well-being. Is my kindness constructive? Does it help both sides grow? Does it foster mutual respect? If the answer aligns with your principles, if your intentions are pure, and if your actions are grounded in self-respect, your kindness is genuine, purposeful, and a source of strength. Kindness isn't a sign of weakness, a vulnerability to be exploited, or a sacrifice to be regretted. It's a conscious choice, an expression of deep inner strength, and a reflection of your commitment to ethical behavior. In a world that often celebrates toughness over tenderness, self-interest over selflessness, and competition over collaboration, kindness becomes a revolutionary act, a powerful way to affirm your dignity, express your values, and make a positive impact, without shouting, demanding, or seeking external validation. When you choose kindness, not out of fear of losing respect, not out of a desire to please others, and not out of a need for external approval, but as a reflection of your values, an expression of your compassion, and an embodiment of your commitment to ethical behavior, you'll earn respect, not from everyone, not from those who seek to exploit your generosity, but from those who truly appreciate the virtue of generosity, who value genuine connection, and who are committed to building a more compassionate world. So, ask yourself, does my kindness make me stronger? Does it help me live in alignment with my values? Does it contribute to my overall well-being? If your answer is yes, you've transformed kindness into a source of inner strength, something untouched by others' disrespect, untainted by others' ingratitude, and unwavering in its purpose. Ultimately, kindness isn't something you offer in search of recognition, something you give with the expectation of reciprocation, or something you do with the intention of pleasing others. It's a choice you make to affirm who you are, to embody your values, and to live a life of purpose, meaning, and integrity. In Stoicism, this is how we live with freedom and integrity, unshaken by external circumstances, unwavering in our commitment to virtue, and resilient in the face of adversity. Today, we've explored 5 powerful lessons about kindness, how to turn it into a source of inner strength, set boundaries without losing compassion, maintain your self-worth while giving, and ensure your kindness becomes a foundation for respect rather than a reason for others to take advantage of you. These lessons will deepen your understanding of yourself, equip you with a guide to channel your kindness wisely, and empower you to live true to your values with confidence and pride. Remember, kindness is never a weakness, a vulnerability to be exploited, or a sacrifice to be regretted, but the ultimate expression of an enlightened, mature soul, guided by wisdom and love, radiating with compassion and strength, and committed to ethical behavior. When you learn to give thoughtfully, when you set boundaries with clarity, and when you act with self-respect, kindness not only brightens the world around you but also becomes a radiant light that protects and empowers you throughout your life's journey. So don't hesitate to let your kindness shine. The world needs more of that light, more of that compassion, and more of that genuine generosity. If this video resonated with you, if it gave you a new perspective on kindness, if it inspired you to set boundaries, or if it empowered you to live with greater integrity, take a moment to click the like button. It means the world to me and motivates me to create even more meaningful content for you in the future. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories, your perspectives, and your experiences with kindness, whether it's brought you joy, tested your patience, or taught you a valuable lesson. And don't forget to share this video with your loved ones, your friends, and your family. Who knows, this message might be exactly what they need today, perhaps even more than their morning coffee, offering them a new perspective, empowering them to set boundaries, and inspiring them to live with greater freedom and integrity. If today's discussion resonated with you, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the upcoming videos. I promise there's so much more inspiration, Stoic wisdom, and practical guidance headed your way, empowering you to live a more fulfilling, meaningful, and authentic life. Finally, let's spread the light of kindness together. It starts with small but meaningful actions, sharing this video, reflecting on your own kindness, and committing to setting boundaries in your own life. These simple gestures create a ripple effect of positivity, inspiring others to do the same, and contributing to a more compassionate and equitable world. Thank you for taking the time to be here today, for engaging with the content, and for joining me on this journey of self-discovery. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, keep moving forward with kindness, with wisdom, and with the strength it brings.